Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 in our Chats with Emily, as we are calling our reading through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turned out a poem 631, Ourselves Were Wed One Summer Dear. Now, there's all kinds of irony, of course, in this first line. Emily herself never was wedded. She never became a wife. And so there's all kinds of interesting dynamics at play with this project. And of course, the first word of the poem, ourselves, who exactly is it she's in reference to? We're going to obviously have some debate about that one. In some ways, we're back already to poem 230. You guys will remember when we did this one. We, B and I, live by the quaffing. 'Tisn't all hock within us. Life has its ale, but it's many a lay of the dim burgundy we chant for cheer when the wines fail. Do we get drunk? Ask the jolly clovers. Do we beat our wife? I never wed. B pledges his in minute flagons, dainty as the trees on her deft head. While runs the Rhine, he and I revel, first at the vat and latest at the vine. Noon our last cup, found dead of nectar by a humming coroner in a by fine. Now this idea of I never wed will marry with 493. You'll remember when we did 493, and it ran like this. The world stands solemner to me since I was wed to him. A modesty befits the soul that bears another's name. A doubt if it be fair indeed to wear that perfect pearl. The man upon the woman binds to clasp her soul for all. A prayer that it more angel prove, a whiter gift within. To that munificence that chose so unadored a queen. We're going to pay attention to that word in this poem. A gratitude that such be true, it had esteemed the dream too beautiful for shape to prove or posture to redeem. Now, is this another Sue poem? Is it another poem about marriage? Is it another poem about friendship? We're going to say all of that possibly and more. By the way, this poem was never sent to Sue, according to scholars. It is another comparison poem where she'll say our futures differ. Different lay. And so we'll be playing the game of what exactly is it that Emily's talking about in this poem. Our assumption is that you've been following our stuff at LearnStrong.net. Down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, I play this. I'm hopeful that you worked through a set of introductory comments as well as our preceding 630 poems. We just finished with 630, the Lightning Playeth. Now, we have two possible marriages being discussed here. One is that Sue is married to Emily's brother Austin on the 1st of July, 1856. Notice that's the first day after the month of June. June will be mentioned in this poem. And then the possibility of a marriage for Emily to no one, although some have read this poem as Sam Boyle's was hoped for. Notice there's three different types of union that will be discussed in this poem. One would be the speaker and a woman. If we assume it's Emily, we could say it's Emily and Sue. Then there's that woman, if you want to call it Sue, fine, to a man. We could argue that's Sue and Austin. And then finally, the speaker, if you want to call it Emily, and another person. Is this possibly Sam? Is this master? The light bringer, as we'll see in this poem. Let's enjoy the reading of the poem. Ourselves were wed one summer, dear. Your vision was in June, and when your little lifetime failed, I wearied too of mine, and overtaken in the dark, where you had put me down by someone carrying a light, I too received the sight. 'Tis true, our futures differ lay. Your cottage faced the sun, while oceans in the north must be on every side of mine. 'Tis true, your garden led the bloom, for mine in frosts was sown. And yet one summer we were queens, but you were crowned in June. Now, again, the problem with reading a poem like this is we don't know who she's speaking to specifically. But it is clear that a comparison is being made where for a while they were together and then for whatever reason they're no longer together. And now Emily has to live without the other. And of course, we've seen this a number of times already. Clearly, though, she's speaking to a woman because she says, Queen, ourselves were wed one summer dear. Now when we get to poem 817, we will come back to this study again. Be given in marriage unto thee, O thou celestial host, bride of the Father and the Son, bride of the Holy Ghost. Other betrothals shall dissolve, wedlock of will decay. Only the keeper of this ring conquer mortality. And then when we get to poem 908, we'll come back to this poem. 'Tis sunrise, little maid, hast thou no station in the day? 'Twas not thy want to hinder so, retrieve thine industry. 'Tis noon, my little maid. Alas, and art thou sleeping yet? The lily waiting to be wed, the bee hast thou forgot. My little maid, 'tis night, alas, that night should be to thee. Instead of morning, hast thou broached thy little plan to die. Dissuade thee, if I could not, sweet, I might have aided thee. Notice here it's sweet, and in this poem it's dear. Dear used in 26 of her poems. And remember, when we read poem 230, I never wed. And then again, poem 493, and the ideas of marriage and even the queen reference. Ourselves were wed one summer, dash, dear, dash. Your vision was in June. And again, if you want to read this as Sue, that makes some sense. That Sue and, again, her brother Austin would marry the 1st of July, 1856. And when, notice, your little lifetime failed. Now, again, guys, she uses the word little in 172 of her poems. Notice lifetime is capitalized. And notice maybe the key word of the poem, failed. I wearied too of mine. In other words, when you married, you lost your life, and she says, I was worried about my life. Now, this is pure Emily. Of course, it's possible what she's referencing is there is a life before one weds, and then there is the life after one weds. And of course, when one weds, the one being Sue in this case, then clearly Emily's life forever changes as well. She says her life was overtaken in the dark. Notice we'll go from dark to light 2 lines later. Where you had put me down. Put me down is used once and only once in all of her poems, and it's right here. By someone, and again, notice the word some is capitalized, carrying a light. Now, some have read this as Sam Boyle's, and we're back to poem 47 in line 4, the bringer of light. I, too, received the sign. Now, we're going to be interested in this word sign when we get to 1072, when we come back to our study here. And we'll come back to this poem again several times in our study, guys. In 1072, she says, title divine is mine, the wife without the sign. Accurate degree conferred on me, Empress of Calvary, royal all but the crown, betrothed without the swoon. God sends us women when you hold garnet to garnet, gold to gold, born, bridled, shrouded in a day, try victory. My husband, woman say, stroking the melody, is this the way? So playing with that word sign here, she says, I received this sign from who we don't say, we don't know. And then she has 2, 'tis true. Again, guys, we call our series Chats with Emily because often her poems come across as almost like chatty. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that we'd say today. Oh yeah, only she says, 'tis true. And then notice the dash. Our future differently. Notice our capitalized, future capitalized. Your cottage, notice capitalized, face the sun. Now we're back to the light. While oceans in the north must be on every side of mine. Now again, this idea of the north, we're going to get to it when we hit poem 635, further north remove. This idea, she says, you got an amazing situation, me not so much. Now remember that Sue will marry Austin, and then they will live directly next to Emily in the house Emily lives in with her father for the rest of her life. But she says, my cottage faced not the sun, but the north, right? In other words, the distance. 'Tis true, she follows up, your garden led the bloom, for mine in frosts were sown. And again, we're back to this idea of somehow failed relationship. And yet, one summer, we were queens, but you were crowned in June. Now, queens, again, used in 19 of her poems, 493, 508, you'll remember it. And this idea of being crowned, you'll remember we saw in 356 and in 508. In other words, we were together. Now, there's a number of poems. When we get to, again, 817 and 908, we're going to come back to the study of this poem. What are we going to say about this poem at 2a? I think the message here is that sometimes in life it's really hard to settle on what you have to consider to be second best offering, no doubt. In other words, I wanted this thing, and she says, I ended up getting this thing instead, and it's really hard. At 2b, well, the uncertainty, obviously, of who we're talking about in this poem is going to contribute to it. At 3a, all of the poems that have something to do with the uncertainty of a relationship, 452, 458, 817, 908, 765, and all the other poems we just shared with you. At 2b, finally, when was a time you lost out. And you had to settle for the north because you didn't have a cottage that faced the sun. Thank you.